It's only been a week, and Donald Trump is already getting to work. And the left is having none of it. They're all just freaking out. My friends, they're calling Donald Trump a dictator. They're saying that he said he will be a dictator on day one. And what he's currently doing is proof of that dictatorship. He has signed executive orders launching investigations into the Biden administration. And obviously, because he's weaponizing the justice system, he must be a dictator. Because only third world countries would do that. Only Venezuela, only South America, so on and so forth, could ever possibly weaponize the justice system against their political opponents, against prior political opponents, because we'd never see that in America, right? Could never happen here, except for the fact that it did, which is wild, right? Because Trump was the former president. Trump once again ran for president. And during the entire time where he was former president, everyone expected him to run. Then he announced that he was running. Then he won the presidency, became president-elect. And all throughout that time, he was investigated. We had the FBI raid his home, and they found classified documents. And it was a catastrophe. It was one of those things where all hell has broken loose because Donald Trump, egads, had classified documents. But when Joe Biden had the same kind of documents, classified documents, in a less secure location inside of his garage, it was okay. Even though Biden had gotten those documents as the vice president when he had no authority to do so, and Trump had gotten the documents when he was president, which means he could have just declassified them and it wouldn't have mattered. No, it's okay that Biden had them. It's fine. He's too old to stand trial, and so he will not be tried. He's too mentally incompetent to stand trial, and so he will not be tried. But Trump, we can try Trump. Do you know why? Because they hate him. That's the real reason. That's all this ever is. Because, you got to think about it, right? The old saying is true. If the left didn't have double standards, they wouldn't have any standards. Because these people are going wild, freaking out about the fact that Trump is a dictator. Trump is going to weaponize the justice system, right? Because he has, like I said, he has opened these investigations into the Biden administration. But it's all well and good when New York investigates Trump, when New York prosecutes Trump over something that no one has ever prosecuted over, and then convicts him on other charges, and makes up crimes for him to be convicted on so they can give it a felony charge so that it's not past the statute of limitations. And it's not political weaponization, apparently, when Trump is found liable for sexual assault. He wasn't found liable for rape. He wasn't found guilty of rape, but he was found liable for libel in the case of sexual assault, because he said that a lady was crazy, because he said that she was a liar, and she sued him. And New York said, "Yep, nope, that's right. He did it. It's wrong. He did it. It's illegal. He's gonna have to pay $4.6 million for it. It's all bad, right?" And he was investigated in Georgia for trying to subvert the election. Now, what I'm saying isn't that what Trump did was right in the election. It's not right, right? He shouldn't have allowed his supporters to riot. Now, to be fair, he couldn't really stop them, but he should have pushed harder for them to quit. But also, it's perfectly fine to question an election. That's the point of democracy. So you can say, "Hey, wait a minute. I don't think this is right. Check again." And then the courts will say, "Okay, let's check again." And the Democrats have done that for decades. Every election, except for this one, every other election, they have questioned the election. When Trump became president in 2016, it was Russian collusion. It was a Russian hoax. It was all lies. It was all manipulation. He stole the election. When Al Gore lost in 2000, had many recounts in Florida and so on and so forth, because he didn't think he lost. He thought Bush should have lost. And decades before, there were recounts all over the place. Centuries before, there were recounts. And that's how the government is supposed to work. We're supposed to make sure that who we voted for is the one that was elected. And that's fine. That's the way it goes. But apparently asking for that, and asking the courts to look into it, is wrong. It's subverting the election. It's a threat to democracy. And we'll see in this article from The Guardian, they are just going to run with this left, right, and center. Because we are back to 2016 2.0. They are just going to constantly do Trump 24/7 because they've not learned their lesson. And this is why these media companies are shutting down. This is why CNN and NBC are laying people off in huge numbers. because they just keep on pushing Trump bad, Orange Man bad, Trump dictator, Trump fascist, Trump Nazi, this, that, and the other. We can see with the Elon Musk bit. What he did was stupid, but it wasn't a Nazi salute. Everyone knows that it wasn't. But they're going to push it. They're going to say it was. So much so that the uninitiated, the folks who are, not political, who don't care about political news when it's not an election year, they're just going to say, hey, Elon Musk is a Nazi. He did a Nazi salute. Even though there's many, many photos of Democrats doing the same thing, because it's not a Nazi salute, they're going to say it was. Because he's affiliated with Trump, they hate him too. And that's just how it goes. Now let's get into this from The Guardian. Trump enlists Attorney General to investigate Biden administration. The President has thrown weight of Justice Department behind 2 politically charged reviews into his personal grievances. Donald Trump has tasked the Attorney General in 2 executive orders to conduct far-reaching investigations into the previous administration, using the weight of the Justice Department to pursue what are effectively politically charged reviews into his personal grievances. See how the media does this? They're just going to twist everything and make it seem like this is all bad and evil and Trump's a bad man. That's all it is. The orders the President signed on Monday to end the weaponization of the federal government and the government censorship of speech in the Biden administration directed the Attorney General to review actions over the last 4 years and prepare a final report. Incoming administrations always set their priorities in the first days, and Trump's second term is no different from any of his predecessors in that respect. Trump also signed executive orders instructing the department to bring more criminal cases connected to the southern border. The fact that the investigations will be done outside of the White House means that they can be less susceptible to political interference by West Wing aides, and leaves open the possibility that the investigative work is conducted, in part at least, by career attorneys at the Justice Department. But the weaponization order was particularly unusual in making the incoming Attorney General examine alleged misconduct at the Justice Department rather than the Department's Office of Professional Responsibility or Inspector General, and then to deliver findings to a political appointee at the White House. The Attorney General does not typically prepare reports for the Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy, Stephen Miller. Under the Justice Department's no contacts policy, designed to prevent political interference in investigations, the Attorney General is only supposed to interact at a staff level with the White House counsel or the Deputy Counsel. Taken together, the various aspects of the weaponization order foreshadow the major role Trump wants the Justice Department to play in his second term and harness its far-reaching power to enact his agenda. And while the order did not detail specific allegations to be looked at, it referenced third world weaponization of prosecutorial power to upend the democratic process, in language that echoed Trump's attacks on the criminal cases brought by former special counsel Jack Smith. The White House did not respond to a request for comment. During the election, Trump repeatedly railed against the criminal prosecutions over allegations he mishandled classified documents and over his efforts to overturn the 2020 election results, and vowed to fire Smith in 2 seconds if reelected. Smith resigned before Trump returned to office like a coward, because he knew that his fate was sealed. In his first term, Trump repeatedly used the imprimatur, look at these people, they're fancy words, of the Justice Department to investigate politically sensitive matters that he was invested in personally, but wanted to pretend he had nothing to do with. When Trump fired James Comey as FBI director in 2017, he initially cited a memo written by then Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein as the rationale for his ouster. Later, it emerged Trump had soured on the Comey in part after he declined to drop a criminal investigation into his national security advisor. Toward the end of his presidency, Trump pressured his then Attorney General Bill Barr to announce that the Justice Department was investigating fraud in the 2020 election, even though the department was not and had no jurisdiction to do so, as part of an effort to contest the results in 7 battleground states. How Trump's incoming Attorney General pick, Pam Bondi, will grapple with the weaponization order remains to be seen. At her Senate confirmation hearing, she pledged to resist political interference from the White House, maintain the contacts policy, and that there would be no enemies list. Until Bondi's nomination is approved by the full Senate, James McHenry III, who ran the Justice Department's immigration courts during Trump's first term, is serving as the acting Attorney General. Other Trump appointees, like the acting Deputy Attorney General Emil Bove and Bondi's Chief of Staff Chad Mizell, are already in place. Trump's weaponization order also states as its intended goal to correct past misconduct, repeating a track record he developed during his first term of seeking payback against political opponents and entire agencies like the FBI when it examined the Trump campaign's ties to Russia. But the execution of Trump's payback attempts had mixed results. The special counsel investigation into the FBI's handling of the Russia inquiry did not arrive before the 2020 election as he had hoped, and the investigation itself yielded no charges against any high-level FBI or intelligence officials. Now here's what they're going to do, right? They're going to say, Trump is a bad man. He's weaponizing the Justice Department by trying to root out the weaponization of the Justice Department. But he's doing it wrong because he's having the Attorney General do the investigation instead of having the career people who are currently in the Attorney General's office, who are obviously leftists, do it. Because it's wild to me that they find this wrong, right? They want him to use the leftist people, right? They want him to use the leftists who are already in power, these unelected bureaucrats who are career people, right? Who get these fellowships and work at these government installations, right? And then, of course, we know exactly what's going to happen. They're going to say, we've investigated ourselves and found no wrongdoing. Just like it always happens. Because that's the wildest part, right? You always got to wonder, who watches the watchers? And the answer is no one. If we're looking at these people who are not elected people, right? They're not elected officials. They're just career people in the government. They're career bureaucrats, right? Who watches the watchers? Because they've been there through every administration. Many of them spanning decades. They've been there. They've worked there. And it's wild to me to think that the left thinks it's only correct if these career bureaucrats investigate. Because God forbid that someone who actually likes Trump, who doesn't hate Trump, doesn't want to undermine Trump, looks into this. Because it's wild to me that the left thinks that everyone's going to agree with the fact that what he's doing is wrong. The policy is in place that they are not supposed to do this. They are not supposed to have any contact with White House staff. But we all know exactly what would happen if we had these career bureaucrats do it. They would just say, no wrongdoing, didn't do anything, don't know what you're talking about. And that's the problem with all this. Until Trump can drain the swamp, if he even does, because he didn't last time, we'll see if he does this time, these people will impede him at every turn. They're just going to obfuscate everything because they don't want Trump to succeed. They don't want America to succeed. They hate Trump. We saw in an O'Keefe Media Group post not too long ago, in fact the other day, there is a White House staffer who was a career bureaucrat, right? He may still be, I don't know if he's been fired or not, but he was saying the person that I want least to be president is Trump. There's no one that he doesn't want president any more than that. He was talking about how the bureaucrats will say, someone will say Robert Kennedy, right? That he'll say, do an or look into the fluoridation in water, right? Let's get rid of it. And they'll say, we'll launch an investigation. We'll do a study. We'll find out. And he'll say, great, that's awesome, because that's what they'll do, right? And then the study will go nowhere. That'll take years. They'll never put any manpower into it, and they'll never find anything. And I think that's what the left wants Trump to do with this as well. He wants him to follow all these prim and proper procedures, which, there's a reason they're there. But it doesn't help him, right? It's not something where anything's going to get done, because they will do the same thing with this as well. They'll say, we'll look into it. And then years will pass. Trump will finish his term, and nothing will have been done. Because they don't want it to be done. They don't want him to find anything, because the machine wants to keep running. The machine wants to keep going forward. It doesn't want to die, and Trump is an existential threat to the machine. It's one of those things where if Trump finds out, hey, these people are doing bad shit, right? Then he's going to try to shut it down. And that's a problem for them, because there goes their career. There goes their livelihood. It's the same thing with the JFK, the MLK, and the RFK files have just been, kind of sort of released, not really, in that Trump signed the executive orders to have these files released. And it's gonna be something where we're going to find out who did what. There's a reason why these have not been released. And I'm betting it's because it implicates a lot of government people and a lot of bad shit. And the machine does not want the American people to know about this. Because the American people will be pissed off. The American people will not want to have this kind of government anymore, right? They probably won't revolt, because here's the wildest part. Because the American people are so comfortable, we've lost the revolutionary spirit. And so, in all likelihood, we'll say, oh, that's bad, that's terrible. And then, we'll bitch and moan, I'll bitch and moan, other influencers will bitch and moan, and that'll be that. But I don't think anything will be done. Same thing with this. Trump might do something, but beyond that, the American populace will bitch and moan, will whine, will cry, and will go on with our lives, because the American people do not want to do anything, because we've become soft with our decadent lives. Either way, guys, that's all I've got to say about this. Make sure to smash that like button, subscribe, and next segment's coming up later today. We'll catch you later.